All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today's webinar. My name is Derek, and we will be taking another look at application scripts. So if you joined the last webinar, I believe 2 weeks ago, Walker gave a great introduction and overview of the new application scripts feature. Talked a little bit about the language it's written in, some use cases for the feature, where you can find it within your application, etc. Today, we will be taking a closer look at how to set up an application script. Specifically, one of the more common use cases we've seen so far. Essentially the ability to create a record in TrackVia and have child records automatically attached to the record that you created. Now, just to kind of set the stage, for what we'll be talking about today. The first thing that we're going to do is take a look at the application that I set up in TrackVia to demo this use case. Just to give you the lay of the land and what you'll be looking at in TrackVia. We'll then take a look at, we'll actually walk through the workflow for adding a parent record and adding child records. The old way, if you will. So what you had to do before application scripts was released. And then we'll do the same workflow, but with the app script enabled. So hopefully you'll see the difference and how much time and effort it can save you in the long run. And then we'll actually take a deeper dive into the script itself and look at how it's set up and just talk about how to write these scripts in general. Okay. At the end, we'll open it up for a Q&A. For those of you on the line right now, if you have questions during the webinar, you are in a listen-only mode. So feel free to use the chat functionality in ReadyTalk, and I will answer the questions at the end. If you missed the last webinar that Walker gave, I would head over to TrackVia or trackvia.com/webinar to take a look at or watch that webinar. I think it's very beneficial and kind of sets the scene for this one as well. So check it out. Also, new webinars are scheduled on there as well, so you can see what's coming up. All right, so let's take a look at just a quick overview of the application that was set up, or that I set up, to show you how to use app scripts. This is a very simple application. Okay? So as you can see, it is a two-table application, a common scenario where you would have a project. Okay? That would be the parent record. And attached to that project, you have multiple or many tasks. Okay? And the tasks would be the child record. Now, if you wanted to batch create child records, sometimes it's just a static list of children that you would like to create, but today we're actually going to look at a dynamic list of children. So the type of project is actually going to determine the types of tasks that get added when you create the project. So we have three different types of projects in this scenario. Okay? We have an implementation project, we have a service package project, and we have a training project. Okay. There are 6 tasks associated with the type implementation, scoping, milestone 1, 2, and 3, application revisions, and training. Okay. The second type of project is a service package, which should include 3 tasks of working session 1, working session 2, and working session 3. And then the last type is a training project, and that is simply 2 tasks, an admin training and an end user training. Okay. So let's jump over to our TrackVia application. And what we're looking at here is a simple dashboard. On the left-hand side, we have a form that is going to allow us to create a project. And on the right-hand side, we have a view that shows us all of our projects. All right. So right now, I have the application script turned off, and we are going to go through the creation of a service package project, and with it, the creation of the child tasks. So this is a project that we are going to do for Samsung. We'll start it tomorrow, very short turnaround here. And of type service package, and we will assign an engineer to that service package. Okay. And when I click Save, you'll see that the project gets created and appears in this view over here for Samsung. Now when I open this project, you will see that I also I get directed to a form that shows me the project details, everything I just entered, as well as all tasks associated with this project. And of course, there are none at this time. Okay. So if I wanted to create tasks for a service package project, I would click on this button and I would say, we are going to do working session 1. And I would assign it to an engineer, and I would click Save and Add New. And I would repeat this process for every task that I need to complete for this project. So working session 1, working session 2, and 3. Okay. So that is, it's not too bad if you have just 3 tasks, right? But many of our customers have many more tasks than that they would like us to associate to a project, you know, in the 20, 50, 100 range. So you can see where this would become quite a headache. Right? I also had to reselect the engineer every time I entered a task. Whereas with the app script, hopefully we can automate that. Okay. So I'm going to go turn on the app script. And we'll take a look at that workflow again with it turned on. Okay. And we'll come back to this and talk about this in more detail in a minute. All right, so now that it's turned on, let's go ahead and create another project for LG. Again, we'll fill out the start date and the end date, and the type of project will be, again, a service package, and I will assign it to an engineer. When I click Save here, you'll notice the project gets created the same way that it did previously. However, when I open the project this time, you'll see that there are 3 tasks associated with the project, and I did not have to add those manually. Okay. You'll also see that the engineer is filled out, so I did not need to reselect the engineer every time. I was able to say, hey, I already know who the engineer is in the project details. We're just going to assign the tasks to that engineer as well. Okay. And one other thing I want to point out here is the speed in which these app scripts are able to run. So you'll notice, right, if we create maybe a larger one with 6 tasks of implementation, right, remember an implementation task, if you look back at our PowerPoint here, has 6 tasks associated with it. It's able to create those tasks extremely quickly, almost instantaneously. And I've actually been able to create, so far I've tried up to 500 child records, and it saves in just a few seconds. So these are very performant and shouldn't slow down your application at all. Okay, and when I click into the project, of course you see the 6 tasks, scoping, milestones, revisions, and training. Okay. And because I'm able to set that TrackVia user field in the child record, I have another dashboard here called Tasks, and I can see all the tasks that are assigned to me. Right? As I flip these to complete or in progress, right? They would leave the view, and then that would, of course, update my parent record, HTC. I can see a nice chart of the progress of this project. Okay. So let's dive in and take a look at the script itself. Now, the first thing I want to point out is where we are creating this script. So you may be inclined to think that this script should be created. Remember, these live in a table. They're on the table level. So you would think, okay, I'm creating tasks. We are going to put the application script on the task table. Now, that is actually not the case in this scenario. You always want to be concerned with what the trigger is that activates the script. Okay? So in this case, I am creating a project which is activating our script or triggering it to run to add the child records. So we would need to put it into the project table. Okay? So if I edit my projects table and click on the new link up here for application scripts, we will see the script. There's 2 tabs at the top. One is the script editor, meaning it allows you to create your script, edit it, right? The error log will actually show you any errors that have been or you've run into when compiling or running your script. Right now there are no errors in here. It means we didn't see any errors, which is a good thing. Now, the other thing that I want to point out before we even look at the script is that there are different types of events. Okay? In this case, we are using an after insert event. Okay? An after insert event is primarily used when you are, in this scenario actually, for auto creation of child records. So of course, if this script were to run before an insert, the child records would be created but not have a parent to link back to. So of course we use an after insert, meaning after I've created my project, go and create all of the child task records. Okay? A before insert trigger may be used in a different scenario, and it's probably the most commonly used event. Say when you create the project, you wanted to look up to a different table and grab a value and stick it into the project, into a field. That would be a before insert, right? Before I actually create the project, go grab some values and populate my fields. Okay. All right, so now if we look at this script, anything in green is a comment. Okay? I find commenting to be very useful. It essentially allows you to look back, say, a year from now you come back and you want to look at this script. You're not going to know what it's doing immediately, but if you have good comments in there, you will be able to. The other benefit is another admin that were to come in here would know what this script is doing if they were not the one to set it up. Right? So try to comment. You don't have to, of course, but I find it very helpful. In order to deem a line in the script a comment, you just start it with the // notation, and that allows you to write a comment. Okay? Anything in green does not get executed. All right, so if we look at the script itself, you'll notice that it is different syntax than normal formulas within TrackVia, and that is due to the fact that this is written in Groovy. You can find a lot of documentation about Groovy online that is helpful. I believe Walker mentioned that in the last webinar where you can find that. So remember in our story that we're working with for this demonstration, there are 3 types of tasks, right? And each task should have different child records created. Okay? So we have this application script broken up into 3 sections. One for the implementation projects, one for the service package projects, and one for the training projects. Okay. Now the first thing that we're doing is a check to see which type of project this is. Okay. So we're using a simple if statement. Okay. So everything inside the parentheses here is the condition for this if statement. Everything inside the curly brackets here is the code that is going to get executed if the condition is met. Okay. We are using, in order to test the type of project, what we call the current values bind variable. So there are different bind variables that you can use in your application scripts. Essentially, bind variable is something that we've created that's a predetermined variable that you can utilize in any of your application scripts, and you do not need to define it. Okay? So the current values variable is essentially a variable that contains, it's a map that contains all of the fields and values from the record that you just created. Okay. So I created a project. The current values map would contain a list of all the fields and the values that are in those fields. So what I'm saying here is grab me the value, the current value, that is inside the type of project field from that record. Okay. If the type of project is equal to implementation, right, then I want to execute all this code. If it's not equal to that, just skip to the next section. Okay. Now, if the condition is met, meaning this type of project is an implementation project, then we are going to execute this. And we are going to use a function called addChild. Again, we have many different functions that you can use in your scripts. The addChild one is common, and it's what we're looking at today, that allows you to create a child record, of course, as its name suggests. Okay. The syntax for using the addChild function is fairly simple. It takes 3 inputs. The first input is the name of the table that you would like to create the record in. So in our case, it's tasks. The second input is the name of the relationship field in tasks that links back to projects. Because there may be more than one relationship field, this tells TrackVia which one to fill out. Okay. The third input is, in fact, the record that you want to insert. And similar to how current values works, we just specify the name of the field and the value that we want to insert into that field. Okay. And then there's the fields are separated by commas. And you list the next field, engineer, and the value that we want to insert into that field. Okay. If I had 10 other fields in my tasks table that I wanted to fill out, I would just continue to separate the fields with commas. So again, name of the field, value you want to put into that field. Okay. You'll notice again we are referencing the current values map because in the project I already know the engineer, right? In my current value of engineer, I want to insert that into the new engineer field and task. Okay. So this one line of code here on line 6 inserts one record into tasks, task name training, and links it back to the project that I created. Okay. So you'll see that I actually have 6 add child functions because I'm adding 6 children, 6 tasks. And I just changed the task name for each of those: training, application revisions, milestone 1, 2, and 3, and scoping. Okay, pretty straightforward. If this condition is not met, if the implementation, or I'm sorry, if the type of project is not an implementation, then of course we will skip this block of code and go on to the next, which is a check to see if the type of project is a service package. If it is, we are going to create these 3 tasks. If it's not a service package, then let's check to see if it's a training type of project. And if it is, we create these 2 tasks. Okay. You do have the ability to insert some error handling in your application scripts. I did not do that here because I am certain, because my type of project is a drop-down field and I require you to fill out that field, I know that it's going to be one of these 3 options, so I did not insert any error handling. But that's not always the case, and you can use that here. Okay. Just one other note, I wanted to show you that when you actually write these scripts, TrackVia uses like an IntelliSense or type ahead to guess what you might be looking for. So if I were to start typing current values, it would show me, do you want the current values of type of project, project name, engineer, right, any of the fields in my table. So I can actually search without knowing exactly what I'm looking for. You can also, it also shows you the functions that you can use, right? Add child, get children, load record. Right. So similar to the way that our regular formula builder works in the table level. Okay. One nuance here is that the application scripts do not verify that the names of the fields you type in are correct. So if I had typed in current values for type of projects, the script would still save and it would not run. Okay, so I would probably get an error when I went to run it. So there is some trial and error involved, but it's usually pretty easy to figure out what's wrong. Okay. So that essentially wraps up what I wanted to cover in terms of these scripts. Hopefully that was helpful in understanding how to set one of these up and what you can do. I I did see 2 questions that came through, so I will address those now. The first was, where can I find documentation on the functions and variables? That's a great question. If you head over to developer.trackvia.com and under the tutorials section, I believe, application scripts, we have documentation on how to use these scripts, or more comprehensive documentation on how to use these scripts. So the types of triggers or events that you can use. This shows the bind variables, right, that you have available to you, current values, previous values, right, so grab essentially the values that were in the record before you updated it, child tables and child records and so forth. Here are additional functions. Add child, which is what we used today. It gives you a description of how to use it and what it does, and you can find all the functions here. Second question was, can you also delete child records when deleting a parent record? And the answer is yes, we do. And actually, you can see this function right here called delete. You would simply need to build a map of the records you would like to delete, and then you can delete those. Another great use case for application scripts. I encourage you to check out this documentation. Gives you some examples of how to use these as well. All right. If there aren't any other questions, we will be posting this webinar at trackvia.com/webinar for you to view in the future. And thanks for joining. Hope to see you in 2 weeks.